One family Andrew developed a strong connection with is the Setos. Sharon and Ron Seto have been faithful supporters of Starship for over 10 years. An ironic twist of fate saw their daughter Ruby end up in the oncology ward. Andrew got to know their story well.
I was in the shower when I discovered a big lump on my side. It was pretty scary. Mum took me to our doctor and an hour later we were here in Starship.
On that first day, Ruby had an ultrasound, X-rays, a CT scan and an MRI. That was a really big day. Over the next few days, she needed another CT scan and a nuclear scan.
No one knew what was wrong with me. I could tell my mum and dad were really worried, even though they tried not to show it. Without those machines, it might have taken months to diagnose my illness. I didn't have that much time. 4 weeks later, I was in here having 7 hours of surgery to remove a 1.6 kg growth of my liver.
After 3 weeks, we came in to hear the news. Our worst nightmare came true that day. Our little girl had cancer. She would leave chemo in a wheelchair, unable to walk. The drugs would cause her jaw to seize up. It was very painful. There were headaches, nausea, a lot of discomfort. She couldn't eat. She had a nasal gastric tube. And of course, all her hair came out. It was gone after a couple of treatments.
The chemo was like trying to win a war. I spent a year fighting back. It was awful.
Would you like some of that?
I think the Ruby and the Seto family have been so inspiring to me. And through the 12 months that Ruby was here, on at least 3 occasions, we thought Ruby was very close to death's door. And it was very hard leaving at night time, not knowing if Ruby would still be around in the morning. And each time that happened, Ruby dug deep and she made it through. And she's taught me a lot about the determination of young people, the strength that you can find within yourself. You know, Ruby's fought the tough fight and she's bounced back. She's just an amazing young woman and I will never forget Ruby.
My Starship story had a really happy ending. The cancer has totally gone from my body and now I'm back to living a normal life. I go to school, play netball, play with my friends and do all the things kids should do. Starship saved my life. That's what they do every day.
Vipulu Pajai is one of the surgeons who does this life-saving on a daily basis. And often it's the lives of the hospital's smallest patients, the premature babies. Donations have provided him and his team with the equipment they need to push the frontiers of surgery, such as this specially designed $10,000 set of surgical tools.
And before we were using bigger equipment like this size as against this for newborn babies.
Made with very high-tech materials, new non-invasive surgery equipment like this is very expensive. Vipul demonstrates on this capsicum just how such delicate surgery is performed.
And subsequent to that, we have been able to perform 4 cases of esophageal atresia, which means where the food pipe and windpipe is connected in the little chest of a baby. And we just go with these equipments or these instruments and then perform the whole operation without making a big incision.
The incubators used to help regulate the temperature of these tiny lives are also hugely expensive. They cost around $25,000 each. The foundation supplies much-needed additional incubators to ensure as many premature babies as possible have the best chance at life. The Paediatric Intensive Care Unit, otherwise known as PICU, is where the most dramatic life-saving happens. Children get brought here by plane, helicopter or ambulance from all over New Zealand because it's the only child-specific intensive care unit in the country.
We have really quite considerable equipment needs in the Starship. The Foundation have provided the vast majority of the equipment that we have in the unit, and it means that we not only get good equipment, we actually get equipment which is right at the cutting edge of what's available.
The air ambulance service is vital to the PICU ward. The foundation aims to raise $1.5 million each year for this service, which transports specialised staff to an accident scene and sick children to the ward. The bulk of the funding goes to a fixed-wing plane, while the rest of the money goes towards the equipment in the helicopter.
The retrieval equipment is like a mobile intensive care unit, so everything that we have here, we also have in miniaturised form so that it can go on to transport stretchers, and we can go out either by helicopter or by fixed wing throughout New Zealand or occasionally up into the South Pacific and collect sick children.
But all this equipment wouldn't be as effective without the continual training for staff, made possible because of the extra funding from the foundation. Support with university courses and overseas conferences are provided. It means that nurses are keen to work here and can pass the experience on to younger nurses. This helps keep the entire hospital at the cutting edge.
It's great to have all the equipment. In the end, the equipment is useless without having really experienced nurses in particular who know how to use it all. And so if we want to be one of the best units in the world, we need really good, experienced nurses, and those nurses need to be trained, and then they need continuing education to keep them at the forefront.
Andrew first took the job at Starship 12 years ago. He was on his way to becoming a top journalist, but the stories he wrote about Starship convinced him to change his career direction.
In all of my years as a senior health reporter, I loved every second I spent in Starship. With all the medical breakthroughs that happen here, with the doctors and the nurses who are just so dedicated to children, it really captured me, hook, line and sinker.
His passion and skills saw him rise to the CEO position in just 4 years.
Got a very busy week. Sharon Hunter has asked us to submit an entry into the Robin Hood Foundation Awards for the mobile phone campaign.
He heads up a small, hard-working team of 13 and often works long outside regular business hours.
The latest appeal which will lodge today?
No, it's certainly not a 9-to-5 job, and I knew that when I signed up. I do very, very long hours, which sometimes takes me away from my family for large amounts of time. There's the time in the office, which is always very full on, running a very small team where all of us have to roll up our sleeves at any given moment and do whatever's required of the job. And then there are lots of functions and events.